Hey, Pramod, how you doing? This is Rohan.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Hey, thanks for making this time to join this session.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it.
It's a difficult time for everyone at the moment, and perhaps it's the same for you as a business and as an entrepreneur. So, how are you doing with this whole situations? Like you have this whole COVID situation at the same time. There's a big case going on for these
Mhm.
George Floyd situation, and pretty much it's in America is a bit, I would say, rattled at the moment.
Yeah.
And how are you doing, in terms of all those challenges you have now?
Yeah. No, so we're doing actually quite well. When the COVID stuff started, that was really one of an interesting thing for us because we looked at the problem and we're like, oh man, we can solve that.
Mhm.
And with our technology, because besides the normal, day-to-day stuff, working from the office and, working from home rather, and making sure families are safe and all of these things, we kind of looked at the market where, we knew everyone was going to be in trouble. And we knew that, we were going to be in trouble, and we had a meeting and it's like, okay, what the heck is going to happen? And we're like, okay, you know what, wherever there's chaos, there's opportunities, right? And it just turned out that we had done an implementation of so we kind of looked at this, and there's a new standard from the W3C, that's the World Wide Web Consortium. They've been around for the longest time. They literally invented the internet, they invented the browser, they invented most of the stuff you use every day, and a lot of people don't know about them. But they created a standard that is really world changing. And it's a standard for self-sovereign identity and for what's called the idea, but it's basically this decentralized identifiers and something called verifiable credentials, right? And most people still don't know about it, And we implemented this because one of our partners is called Alestra, they're a blockchain company in Spain. And they're kind of driving that effort in collaboration with the European Union. And we're partners with them, and they're like, yeah, we can do that too, because we're already doing all of that stuff. We're just doing it in a different way. And we all also found some patterns, regarding interoperability of blockchain, and this stuff kind of like fell right in the middle of that. And so when we started looking at the problem of it, we realized that the solution would be if we could provide on the market a technology that allows you to securely verify health statuses of people. And that means that for you to get back to work or to get into a football stadium or to go to a concert, we can verify that you've been tested and this is your test results and stuff like that. So in that respect, we did a really quick pivot, basically building on top of the standard-based technology. And we launched, and we're the first company in the world that I know of that did it. And I can say that pretty confidently because I Googled everywhere to see if anyone was doing it. And also because the standard just literally got approved by the W3C in November last year. So this was like 3 months, before COVID happened, and we had our solution working, I think, by January or February, but it was for education credentials. And in March, when the COVID happened, like within a couple of weeks, we we pivoted our technology to do that. So because of that, we've been super busy within this space. We're building partnerships, a lot of global partnerships with different, unfortunately, I can't tell you the name of the companies, but these are some of the largest technology companies in the world, or included in the article, right? But these are the big boys, and they all, want to be a part of this solution. And because we just happen to be first to market with it and with a very strong standard, and where the standard is actually backed by the Department of Homeland Security and, you know, another other great, you know. So to answer the question, sorry for how long, is that, yeah, we're, from a business point of view, we're doing really, really well. We're having just tons of traction of what we're doing. And so this has been, like, you know, a big focus for us in the,
coming back to the same topic, like, you know, within the space of financial market, what I realize is, like, you know, during this whole situation of being able to just stay at home, you know, it was great, you know, just to be around the family and also to be able to just do everything on the fingertips, right? So you are able to order everything at home and everything is delivered to your home, right? In the same context, I was thinking, okay, you know, what if I want to buy a house, right? And it would be instantly, let's say not delivered, but at least it would be done, right? Online itself.
okay.
And then I'm also thinking, okay, you know, there are many regulations at the moment, like, which doesn't allow you to do that. Maybe there are some legal obligations that we cannot challenge at the moment, and everything is tied up to trust and perhaps also to do with the banking industry itself. And I'm thinking, like, why is the banking institution taking so much time to remain in that vacuum? I'm just talking about more of a traditional banking institution where I feel like they've sort of, you know, missed that opportunity. Why do you think so?
I think it's changing, though. I mean, clearly regulations, that's really one of the really big issue. You know, it's an environment, you know, for fraud, you know, so, you know, KYC, AML kind of things are like a really big deal. But, you know, this is really changing as we speak. I mean, if you look at some of the things that's happened, you know, and unfortunately, a lot of it is coming from Europe more than the USA. But if you look at stuff, what happened with GDPR, that was a significant, you know, regulatory change that had really more of an impact than we're thinking, because it really kind of says that you need to own your own data as an individual, or at least control your data as an individual. It ties into the other couple of things that was happening in Europe around the same time period, which is PSD2 and open banking between the European Union and Great Britain. And these are more of, hey, banks and financial systems, you need to be able to give access to people's data. But a lot of that was through third parties, right? So, you know, if I'm a software company and I build something, and then end users. But what's really changing more and more, so these are, you know, when you have these kind of things, it's more gradual than, you know, all one time. The stuff that I mentioned earlier regarding self-sovereign identity and, you know, verifiable credentials is a big part of this as well. And the way that that works is we will get to a point, which we already are, that it just does not make sense for the bank to control my data and for the bank to control my money. You know, they're just this middle person entity, and they charge me all kind of money to, you know, for me to access my own money, right? In fact, there's a really interesting article that came out yesterday in the LA Times. I can find the link and send it to you. You can Google it. It's from Andrew Yang. And where you located? Are you in the US or elsewhere?
No. I'm based in Belgium. Yeah.
Okay, in Belgium. Okay. So Andrew Yang is one of the guys that was running for the USA presidency this year.
Yeah.
And he dropped out at some point, right?
Yeah.
And he started a group, and the entire idea of this group is to say, you know, we need to be paid every time a company use our data, like Facebook, right? And so this is kind of significant, actually, because it ties into some of these things I've been preaching for the last few years, that what we will do, we will all end up controlling our data. That means our banking data, that means our social data, That means our experience data. That means all of this stuff. And what we've been trying to figure out is how to do it in a way that is safe, secure, makes sense. How do you build in trust with all of this stuff, right? How do you really make it work? It's great to say conceptually, and we've been building the different pieces of it. So like from a compliance point of view, GDPR and the open banking guys, those are very much compliance kind of a thing, and they kind of throw in technology. You need to allow downloads and stuff like that. But from a purely technology point of view, we've actually had blockchain that's been very, very helpful with the technology part, which really addresses trust, right? And then now you're having the part that really handles identity, right? So the core of all of this at the end of the day will be identity. If you can't solve identity, none of this will really work. And what it really means is that there must be a unique way that I can control and safely own my data. Until I can do that, I really can't do these other things, right? This is a critical part of it. And so now, once that's solved, which the different projects that are going on, but the core technology is called DID for decentralized identifiers. So once I have a decentralized identifier, which means that I have a very unique way to identify myself, then I can do stuff, right? And so stuff means that, okay, how do I control my data from my university that says that I graduated with, a bachelor's degree in business or technology, and I can share this safely with someone, okay? I can use my DID with my digital wallet. This is one of the things that if you're coming from financial services, if I say digital wallet, you think cryptocurrency, right? Yes and no. That was one of the first real use cases. But long term, it's not going to be the only use cases. The bigger use, well, I wouldn't say bigger, equally big. And let me qualify that. There are two halves to blockchain, right? One side of it is cryptocurrency, and the other side of it is data, okay? And cryptocurrency is the game where, okay, we want to move money around, and we want to move digital assets around, right? And cryptocurrency kind of technology does really well with that. The other side of it is data, right? And data means that I am a part of a supply chain, and I want to be able to sign different documents, or I want to be able to track and trace data across the globe, right? Or I want to be able to control my digital credentials, like my driver's license, or my passport, or my, or my degree from this university and that university, right? So, so this is a data part of it. The data part of it is really addressing not just cryptocurrency. So why is this important? Because now in a digital wallet, you'll find your Bitcoin and you'll find your different, cryptocurrencies. But next to that, you'll find your degree from Stanford University. You'll find your passport. You'll find your driver's license. Everything that's in my wallet, in my pocket, will be in my digital wallet. In addition to all my financial stuff, to be able to verify that I do have a bank account with, Bank of America, and that I do have more than enough money in that account to cover this transaction, and that I am now giving you the access right to be able to do that transaction on the account. So this is where digital wallets is going, is to be able to control all of my stuff, including all of my banking information. And now KYC AML becomes very easy because now that the state has issued an actual, some kind of a verifiable identity to me, driver's license, passport, etc., they would have published that to me in a digital format using blockchain technology and other technologies. I will have that verifiable credential in my digital wallet, And now I want to open a bank account, which of course I sit where I am. I don't go to the bank. I don't like to go into banks anyway, because I find them to be very annoying. But I go use my mobile and I can connect and I can open a bank account from anywhere in the world that I am. And normally what they want to do is to be able to do KYC AML verification. But I already was issued my identity from the state. And I can now verify this ID using blockchain technology from anywhere in the world that I am. And the bank will be able to do that verification and approval of the bank account. And I can transfer as well funds in and out of that account from anywhere in the world that I am. So there are two ways to look at it. There's one, I could still use an intermediary bank, or the other, I could just store the data as digital assets within my my digital wallet, and I can just transfer directly. So I think it will be more likely a hybrid of those two use cases going forward.
One of the key point that you mentioned earlier is about the supply chain. I'm quite curious about this particular entity and to do with the let's say blockchain. You know, the concept perhaps is to see the integrity of the products when it moves from point A to point B, and to be able to verify if it was originated at a certain locations, right? So that's what I understand about using blockchain to in those tech in this space. What kind of use case do you have from Vottun, you know, concerning supply chain?
Yeah. So, good question. So that happens to be one of the technologies that we built, of course, and it's the core. So first of all, one of the core value of blockchain is, and I'll make a quick distinction. If you think about ERPs like SAP or Oracle or PeopleSoft, they all have supply chains. And we spent, and I had an ERP company consulting firm years ago. But in the 90s, we basically built out these technologies. And the whole idea was to integrate an enterprise, right? Meaning that I have a global enterprise and I have offices all over the world and I have, you know, data stores every place, but they were not connected, right? And so what ERP technology did was to integrate the enterprise, but an enterprise, right? But now we are in a very big globalized world. And so what we want to do is to be able to have trust and integration across enterprises, across an entire industry. And that's lacking. You're not able to really do that with the ERPs of the world. And this is where blockchain fit in, right? And this is where blockchain and traceability just really makes sense. And this is why supply chain is really an excellent use case. So when you're having a multi-participant network, blockchain is typically, especially across multiple companies, blockchain fit normally pretty well within these use cases. So now for supply chain, if you think of an industry, it doesn't really matter. It could be retail, it could be healthcare, it could be, you know, just logistics. It could be, you know, we can track and trace literally any product. You know, we've done it for finance. We've spoken to, okay, I won't mention the name, but let's it's a very big financial company.
Okay.
And we did a POC for them. And what they wanted to do was, hey, if we're sending this big chunk of money from where we are to the other part of the world, when we do that, we actually lose track of it. They really don't know, you know, where it goes, where it ends, and all of these things, which is kind of shocking for most people as it was for us, right? Yes, that's why I won't mention names, right? And
give me some.
so what we demonstrated was that like any supply chain, you have participants, right? And the participants are the different people within that network, the different organizations within that network. And so we can start with that organization that's actually sending the money, and we record, you know, this is how much you're sending, this is where you're sending it, These are all the documentation. We can hash all the documents. So this is everything that you're sending, wrap it up. We can record that in the blockchain. So let's call that step one in this particular supply chain network. Then it goes to some intermediary someplace. So that intermediary could be a bank or it could be some other institution. And in that case, they receive it and we record. This is what you received. Okay, so now we can compare what was sent. This is the documentation that's needed for that. This is the person and the entity that receive it. So we can collect all this information from that entity. And then it goes on to another entity within that network. And then we do the same thing. So we're able to record and timestamp the relevant data and activity for all the different entities in the supply chain, even if they don't know each other, even if they're not really normally, because the whole idea of blockchain is that you're able to bring trust in an untrusted environment, right? And so we can do that in that case, which is really just, financial, track and tracing money. I have a meeting this afternoon to do something similar for energy, to explain how that would work. We've done the same thing for Spanish jamon in Spain. Here's where the pig was raised on this particular farm, and this is what it ate, and this is why they charge $600 per leg, because it is considered Iberian ham, right? And so we can track and trace that. We've done for organic eggs, we've done for fish. You can do it for pharma. So the whole idea is that it begins someplace, it ends someplace, and there are participants in the middle. It could be one, it could be a dozen, or it could be any amount, right? And so the whole idea is that the blockchain is a common thread between that, and where we're able to collect the data as we go through to each participant, record that data, make that data transparent to the other parties within that, and also be able to have a trust, because the data is immutable once it's posted to the blockchain. So what was posted is what's going to be there now and 10 years from now and whenever. You don't have to worry about it changing, which is a big problem in the industry, because if you're using a regular supply chain application, it's going to use a relational database, and you just go ahead and have your developer change things as it suits you. We would like to believe this doesn't happen, but we know that the real world it does, right? And so this is where some of the lack of trust will happen between different entities, but also the flow of data becomes much cleaner, because if you have 5 entities in a supply chain, it's possible that they're all using different ways to collect and process their data. So one person may use Oracle supply chain, another one may use a spreadsheet, another one may have everything on paper, another one may do SAP, and so to try to really get a true visibility of where things are, or did you receive what you actually send, and how can you verify that? It's very, very challenging in the existing supply chain networks. And so blockchain is really, really fantastic at solving that problem quite elegantly, actually. And that's what our technology does.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I was getting this supply chain question from one of my session with another founder in the supply chain. They were primarily doing the integrity of unique, let's say, matters, for example, gas and liquid. And they would be able to sort of, detect where it was produced, understanding the chemical compositions and gas and everything. And it was quite interesting what they were doing. And then I get to stumble upon your company again. Around, yeah, and then I had to pop this question up. So yeah, it was quite interesting what they were doing, indeed, and yourself as well.
Supply chain is one of the common use cases for blockchain because it's one of the very obvious ones, right? for multiple participants, and where there's just a lot of mess within that particular sector right now. But you're going to have very vertical specific solution, which is what that sounds like. They take in the gas and they decompose in it to see what's in it and so forth, and from that they can determine some specific information. And what we've built is more of a platform that can fit within the different verticals. And so, yeah, like I said, we will all have different approaches to that solution as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at the way, technology is evolving, right? And I want to sort of, drag you back into the conversation around banking, because what I'm seeing is like we have all this accessibility for us, and then we want everything fast, right? We want scalability, we want everything at our fingertips. Yet our banking institutions, I'm not talking about the old traditional banking institution, but more of a new banking system which are already evolving, where we see that there is a certain interest around the fintech, for example, N26 and Revolut. At the same time, we see that there are a lot of companies who are filing for bankruptcy, right? The traditional ones. What particular companies or let's say startup you are quite interested about? Anything that you find, okay, this particular startup is quite interesting compared to others. I just named a couple of those. That's what I remember. Anything that you are quite interested about? Any other companies?
I would say Robinhood, actually. They have the same investors as we do, Draper Ventures, but different arm of Draper Ventures. But I'll say that because I use them, and I use them because they have similar view as we do, and I'll explain that. There's like a zillion different trading applications that are out there, but most of them, even if you're a PhD, you still have no clue what it is, right? And you lose your money, and this is really terrible. I mean, from a technology group, that sector is horrible, right? And with using Robinhood, it's just pretty easy, and I totally respect that, because that's a very core part of the way that I design stuff, right? Is that I want any idiot to be able to pick up my software, and within a couple minutes of playing around, you should figure out at least what all the core features are. And that's one of the real differentiation for us. We're very heavy in technology, but it's always a pleasure to feedback from our clients about the user experience, right? And so this is one of the problems with bank. If you, I'll give you an example. This is quite a true example, right? And let me see if I can say it. Yeah. Okay. So my bank, which is an American, it's one of the large American banks. It's one of the large. They're going to close my account after I slam them.
No, okay. I'll give you my example here once you've done yours.
Okay. So my bank, I'll even say it's Wells Fargo. Probably shouldn't say something about hack my bank account. So don't say the name of the bank. But anyway, my bank, an American bank, which is one of the large ones. So I have a certain bill that I've scheduled, and every month it goes and does what it's supposed to do. And literally, this week I'm trying to change the amount. I can't find anywhere to change. I mean, I'm hacking around, I'm clicking every button, everything, and something as simple. I mean, my God, this is like 30-year-old technology, right? Where you just schedule a damn payment. I just want to change the amount. I still can't figure it out. And I have to go Google, okay? And they said, oh, call the bank. I'm like, are you joking? You call the bank to change an amount of a payment that I do every month? Are you guys nuts? This is why they're going out of business. Okay? That is the answer to the question, right? This is why they're going out of business. Because, you know, me, I'm an older guy and I'm a little more patient with it. But I'm going to tell you, man, my kids or anyone that's under 20, they're going to be like, are you nuts? Are you nuts? Call? You mean talk to a person, a human being?
Just to do that, you know?
Yeah, there's no way. So, so that is the reason. Bank is still, you know, the stuff that they consider to be cutting edge is 20, 30-year-old technology.
Yeah.
This is really one of the clear differentiation with Robinhood and any other trading platforms. I'll speak highly of them because it works. And it's pretty straightforward to use. I can always suggest some improvements for them, but I won't. But you know, but the overall concept of you can go and you can figure out what you want to do. You can do it. You don't need training, right? You don't really get too confused. And the things that, like a couple of things I was a bit confused about, and I spent a couple more minutes, I was able to figure it out. I have kids that are just preteen. I have a 12-year-old and a 14. Their life is TikTok. Okay, and if you know TikTok, okay.
I have an 11-year-old, so okay. I know.
Thank you. Any idiot can be a superstar, and this is their expectation. This is their expectation, right? And if we don't adapt to this, okay, if nothing else, just from the user experience point of view. So this is why banks are going under. This is why they'll continue to go under. This is why someone that's 20 will be able to build a much better system than guys that are 50, 60 years old, who are the ones that are behind banking right now, because they just don't get it. So that would be my answer to your question. Why are they going under?
Yeah, that's rightly said, you know, because fundamentally, when let's imagine our situation, let's say pre-internet, right? So we went to bank, we stand on the queue, you know, principally they were using our money to make more money. At the same time, you know, we had 3 core objectives, you know, basically storing money, moving money, and then perhaps getting credit, right? So those are only 3 objectives. And then the internet came along, and then we were able to sort of, you know, check our balance, you know, over the internet. And then the mobile banking came along. Then we are only able to check the balance, right? So we couldn't do much. We couldn't, in principle, do much. And I want to echo the example that you just gave about your own bank. And we, like, I live in a place where we just have one, let's say, ATM machine nearby. And when I go there, you know, when I want to withdraw the cash, it takes about 10 minutes to get my cash out, right? Just to give you an idea. And then what I did was I took a picture of that particular machine. I just said, hey guys, like, you know, you need to step up and maybe, you know, try to update the system or whatever. They didn't do anything, you know. So just to let you know, they didn't even care about, you know, the messages coming along. So that's the stage we are at. And then I look around and I see N26, Revolut, and the Robinhood. Maybe there are other different, you know, companies trying to really disrupt, you know. And then I see, like, maybe in a matter of a couple of years they wouldn't exist, right? So that's my assessment.
No, but I think you're totally right. I think they won't exist, because one of the things is that, you know, for me, there's an absolute certainty that digital cash will be the reality. Okay, yes. It's a matter of when, right? But it will be the reality, right? And so when you think about just where, you know, why do you want an ATM machine? Why do you need that paper thing? You run around with somebody that could hit you over the head and take it, right? You know, that's true. It doesn't make any sense, you know? You know, so, you know, it's filthy, it's dirty, 1,000 people have touched it, you know, especially at a time like COVID. Why do you want that? I haven't touched cash in like 3 months, right, you know?
No, so, the thing is, for me, it only works because I have some grocery stores where you get to buy vegetables, which are from cash, right? So, and then it's cheaper on those, you know, store. So that's the reason I need to draw cash. Otherwise, I don't use at all.
No, just speaking, I was just saying generically. No, I get it sometimes as well, because sometimes I always want to have a little cash, especially when I travel.
Yeah.
But in the long term, I mean, what's going to happen? I mean, so, I can tell you, I can tell you exactly what the workflow is going to be because we already have the technology, right now, very simple, these are some of the key use cases that you're going to see with this change. KYC AML. That's the first to go, man, because that's insane. Every time I need to get approved for something, I'm going to give you my entire life history. I give you access to everything. I said, that's ridiculous. So the way that's going to work is the government entity give me, my ID, whatever it is, again, driver's license, passport, whatever. I need to open an account, with a bank or something like this. So the bank needs to verify my identity. What I will do, since I already received my credential from the government entity, it's in my digital wallet, I go ahead and just share that with the verifying entity, which could be the bank typically, and they'll just verify that I am who I say that I am, and they open an account. That's it. It's all done electronically. You don't really need any middle person really in between the issuer, which would be the government entity, the recipient of the credential, which is me, my ID, and then the verifier, which is the bank. They just verify it technically. You don't even need to touch anything. You can do all kind of cool things for that verification. If I want to now go ahead and open other bank accounts, now that the bank would have issued me a credential to say, Rohan, you have an account with the bank. That's just another credential, okay? And I want to open another account. I just go ahead and share that credential with the other bank, and it's done. No need for KYC AML, right? I want to do a wire transfer. I know at the bank, now that the bank has issued me a credential that says that I have an account with the bank, and it knows what my balance is. All this person want to verify is that, yeah, you have an account with the bank, and yep, you have enough to cover this transaction. Yeah, done, right? That's it. Again, no intermediary. So we can do all of these different use cases, transfer money across, internationally, wherever you want to do. So these things are literally with my mobile phone. I can just literally sit at my house and do all of these things and never get online, never go to a bank account, never go into a bank, never log into a bank account. I can do all of these from my mobile phone. And the technology is here already today. This is one of the core technologies I mentioned, and this is one of the things that we have incorporated. It's called verifiable credentials. It affects banking, it affects supply chain management, healthcare, it affects literally everything. And so this is one of the things you'll be hearing about more and more. But the core part of it is identity, which they solved quite eloquently. So until you solve identity, it's very difficult to do a lot of these things, and this all runs on blockchains.
Yeah, and how do you see people trusting that technology? Like when as soon as you ask for information as such, your personal information, people are skeptic now with the internet and so forth, and it's difficult to convince someone to provide those credentials, right?
No, but that's the cool thing about it. It's now it's what's scary. I have to, if I have to sign up for something, like a trading account, right? Okay. Give me your name, your address, your this. Oh, take a picture of the front of your driver's license and the back of your driver. Oh, also go get your passport. Take a picture of that. I'm like, who the hell are you guys? So now, I mean, the way that we do it now for AML is absolutely scary, and these guys are recording all of this stuff, and I don't know what they're doing with my ID, right? But with this, I don't do any of that. I literally click a button. I just go ahead and say, I approve you verifying. That's it. So think of it as I have think of your mobile phone, right? And think of an app, and in that app, someone requests verification. You get like a little message. Would like to verify your identity, and you can see that it's from Bank of America or something, and you just click a button, approve. That's it. Okay. You don't know what's going on in the back of it. You don't know that there is self-sovereign identity, verifiable credentials. All you know is that all you have to do is click a button, and you don't give them any of your information. You don't have to fill out a form. You just literally click a button to say, I am giving you permission to verify my data. That's all you're doing. So there, so the scary part goes away. For me, the scary part is what we're doing now. In the very, very near future, which again, the technology exists today, it's just a matter of people catching on and starting to build applications around this. This is all you're going to do is just really click a button, open your app in your mobile, click approve, and that's all you do, and it's done.
Mm-hmm. The example that you mentioned about, going through the verification process, I did that, I think a month ago when I opened the account in a trading website for, I think I wanted to buy some, just to try out all the Bitcoin and see if that price ever increases, hoping that it would increase. Yeah, indeed. I echo that, like what you said. Like it's a difficult, painstaking process, and somehow it should be much simpler than that, right? And I remember a time when PayPal used to ask that, those things, and it took weeks before you were able to use your account. So,
and the thing about that is a lot of it is actually government mandated to be able to do that. But a lot of that will shift, because one of the cool things about verifiable credential is that the biggest sponsor is the Department of Homeland Security for the USA. So we know that as a policy point of view, this is the direction that the USA is going into. We also know as a policy point of view, this is where the European Union is going. There is a lot that's written now about this research and about the European Union participation in that. So what I just described, this is literally our very, very near future that we'll be able to conduct in business like this.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. I'm also looking forward to those new changes. And what's up for Vottun now going forward? Like, what kind of challenges that you would like to solve going forward?
Oh, that's a big one.
Take your time.
Okay. I'll do. So I have to go like at 12 o'clock my time. I have a hard stop because I have a meeting with Oracle.
In 12 minutes, you have 12 minutes. Come on, go for it. Try it out.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to start from a very high level concept, right? And I'll try to break it down in as short a term as I can. Okay, so and I'm working on a book about this, by the way, but I'll kind of give you the quick summary.
Yeah. Go for it.
You'll see, if you Google, you'll see something called banking 4.0. You'll see industry 4.0. You'll see all these 4.0 kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people are speaking about them as separated things. I look at it as one thing, right? And the one thing is really there's a convergence of technologies that's going on. It's the first time in the history of mankind that I can tell that you've had so many major technologies come into fruition at the same time. Blockchain is one of them. It's a big one. Artificial intelligence is one of them. Some of the components of artificial intelligence, like machine learning, is a really big one. Big data, even on the hardware side, kind of like neuromorphic computing is a big one that no one talks about. There's another one called quantum computing that most people talk about. A lot of the encryption technology, I spoke to a guy yesterday that says that anything quantum can do, he can undo it, right? Which is crazy. It's really crazy, right? So there are all of these things that are happening at the same time. And I believe that the future is going to be not one or two of these threads, but how can you figure out how to put all of this into one real solution, right? And they speak about, smart cities and stuff like this. But this is my vision of the future, is that all of these things that are they'll converge into one crossover destination, and that the entrepreneurs and the technologists that are able to figure out how to make these things work together will be the ones that are creating the technologies of the future. And that's where Vottun is. We are doing exactly that. I am looking at all of these things. I am speaking to everyone. I am researching all of these. We're building all these components. And where I believe that the core thing is that blockchain will need to be the centerpiece of all of this, because without trust, none of this works. Okay? So without trust, you cannot have identity. Without identity, you cannot have credentials. Without credentials, you cannot have the banking. So all of this stuff really ties in, and it will do so more. But the core part of it is that until you can have trust, especially in a world without trust, then it will be difficult to make all of these other things work. So that's where Vottun we sit in the middle of all of that stuff. And we believe that we are currently building a platform that will enable all of these pieces to come together. So that's the answer.
You took your time.
Okay.
Okay.
That was the shortest I could do.
Just to sum it up before we go, how do you see the overall financial industry being able to adapt? Some of the industries, let's say some of the big names, perhaps will be trying to catch up and trying to adapt. But going forward, how does that look like to you?
Massive disruptive changes. I think fintech happened some years ago. I was involved in that. I had a fintech company as well. And it was social trading, and that was disrupting the industry. I believe that we're about to go through another massive disruption of the financial industry. And I believe that a lot of financial companies and financial services companies are pretty comfortable in the position that they've been in. But I believe that a lot of startups will come from nowhere. We'll use a lot of the technologies that we spoke about today, and we'll have either massive disruption, or they will be disruptive enough that they'll probably just get acquired by some of these larger companies. So that's what but the way it is right now will not stay the same. I expect that there'll be a lot of changes, in the very near future, not the 10, 20-year time frame, but the 2 to 5 year time frame.
Yeah, nicely said. And Rohan, I think you touched upon pretty much all the topics that I could throw at you in this short time. I'm sure we can catch up again in the nearest future and talk about what's going on again in the financial industry and the fintech industry. Yeah. For today, I think you're also running out of time. So thank you so much. It was definitely worthwhile conversation, because there are a lot of things that you touched on where within my space of curiosity. So thank you so much once again for this one.
I appreciate it.